Today is Thursday, and guess what? We are managing moment by moment, day by day. And so just be glad, have gratitude for the things that you have been able to overcome, and even those challenges that may be before you, because you can take it moment by moment, day by day. And so I'd like to bring out my special guest for today who has a very dynamic story to share with us, and just her journey and her passion. You can go ahead and hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for allowing me to join you on your platform today, and definitely appreciate the topic in terms of managing day to day. It's so appropriate at this time.
Right, right. And so can you tell everyone, who's watching, who you are and what you do? And I like to let my guests tell who they are because they can tell who they are so much better than I would be able to. And it's really just good, for us to self-identify and be able to share our stories. And so if you could tell people who you are, that would be great.
Absolutely. So I'm Zakia Sankara Jabbar. I came into this education advocacy work organically as a parent. I co-founded my own nonprofit organization in Dayton, Ohio, Racial Justice Now. The organization is still very much in existence. My husband and partner works at the organization, and there are several other staff that also continue the work of the organization, both in Dayton and now also with the new chapter in the DMV region, DMV standing for DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. So lots of work happening. As you all know, education equity is an issue in every single community, state, everywhere in this country. And so fighting for education justice, particularly for Black students, is something that is very near and dear to my heart because of how I actually got introduced to the work. I'll share really briefly that I came in, like as I mentioned earlier, organically when my son was 3 years old and was already at 3 years old being identified by the school systems and educators and administrators as a problem. And I quickly woke up to the fact that Black children in education, Black boys, certainly have had an issue in school systems in this country for centuries. As we know, it was illegal for Black people to even learn how to read during the time of enslavement. And then, of course, all the way today, where we now have what's known as the preschool to prison pipeline, which is something that I experienced and actually was the reason why I co-founded Racial Justice Now, to push back and organize Black parents, to make sure that Black parents know that they don't have to put up with a system that is criminalizing their babies, literally, and they certainly don't have to put up with a system that also criminalizes them in the process.
And I have to validate that. I had 3 daughters that I had, sent through education systems, even from preschool, like 2 years old, but I worked with them. And so because I worked for early childhood education, I saw it from a different lens. When I had my 3rd daughter, I was at home, homeschooled her, was able to teach her the basic things. But when I had my son, who is my youngest child, I immediately noticed the difference between the treatment of even my daughters and my son. And my grandson happened to be born a month after him. And I was like, whoa, there is an attack on our boys. And it is fierce, right? Just, I was thinking to myself, like, what more do you want to kill? Like, you are trying to label, stigmatize, put them down every chance you get. I remember, he was outside cleaning up at lunchtime when all the kids were playing. I'm thinking, this is not some type of Caltrans. The teacher was like, 3 strikes, you're out. and that was only by first grade, right? And I'm like, if I don't get him out of here, they're literally going to try to snatch his soul, seriously. And my grandson was right behind that. And I was just thinking like, wow, what a difference. I didn't have any sons to compare it to. But then when I did, I was like, whoa, this is something deep, and so I appreciate
You have no idea how much. And now, as you know, I'm the National Director of Activism at Brightbeam Network, which is the anchor organization for Education Post Citizen Ed. And we have several other platforms where
Shout out to Citizen Ed.
Yeah, we're building out our activism pipeline. Our CEO, Chris Stewart, just has this vision to make sure that every single child in this country has access to an equitable education. And so we're working collaboratively, literally, to try to make that happen. And we're doing all the things to make sure that children have what they need. But the story that you're describing is certainly like for me, I realized like, wow, I'm not unique, because at the time that I was experiencing it, I have to tell you, like, I thought I personalized it, like, oh, I must be a bad mom, or, whatever my circumstances were at the time. We tend to go inward and blame ourselves instead of saying that, oh, wait a minute, something is toxic about this particular system that wants to criminalize a baby, literally. And then when I'll tell you, I actually read a book that actually politicized me, and that book was called Countering This Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. And that book literally gave practical tools to help parents organize, to help parents advocate for their children, and gave you language to use to educators so that they knew that you were educated about the system and that you knew what you were talking about. And so that piece really changed the game for me. I continue to read, continue to become really enamored in the work of folks like Dr. Asa Hilliard, all of these Black educators and Black thinkers and theorists who have been describing and talking about and theorizing all about this violence, academic and cultural violence in our schools, whether it's public, charter, private, or any other kind of system. Black children's spirits in many of these instances, if you talk to parents, you'll see that their spirits and their souls are being murdered by people who don't see them as full human beings. And so that is something that I think that as a community, we really have to come to grips with, that this is still 2020 and it's still happening. And for me, that was back in 2011, and Dr. Kunjufu wrote that book, I believe the first edition in 1983, and I could apply that in 2011. Something is wrong.
Something is definitely wrong. I did what I knew best to do, and that was call my father. I'm like, let me get my daddy on the phone. And my dad is a gun in his boot, Texan, okay? And that was my initial thought, like, let me call my dad, seriously. And he was disturbed. And I didn't understand, why was he so disturbed? And he said, because I experienced this when I was a kid.
In school. Wow.
And I was like, and he said, you mean to tell me that my grandson is experience what I experienced throughout my school time? And I was like, yeah, this is what's happening today. And it was like he had a moment, and he became so angry about the things that my son was going through. And I realized this is generational, and when something happens with Black children, it happens to the whole entire family.
That's right.
Because we can all somehow relate. And self-care is so important, but at the same time, keep continuing to fight. Because when I saw just the look on my dad's face and the emotions that he got from what I was telling him was happening to my son, it was like he was reliving those moments that happened to him. And that's when I really put my foot to the pavement, like, no, some of this ain't gonna be nice. the pushback's not going to look nice.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you could talk about your organizing, and what's that looked like in the areas that you have organized around these things and parents and
Yeah. So, organizing, is difficult because in our communities, and I'm speaking about, my organizing experiences in working class Black communities. And so for a lot of us, we've been burned, right? We
right.
had do-gooders, quote unquote, come into our community, make promises, and then never deliver. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna go here, but
Please do. You can go.
it happens usually because keep in mind, I lived in Ohio, right? And so particularly in Ohio, Black folks were used to people dropping into our community, flying in every 4 years to make all of these promises about what was going to change for our community. Now, this is political. Everything is political. And Ohio happens to be a quote unquote battleground state. And I'm sharing with you why my organizing experience was so difficult is because
Mm-hmm.
it took a long time to actually build authentic relationships that was based on
Yes.
trust. Because
Yes.
people were so used to people, oh, here come another do-gooder organization, some organization talking about what they're gonna do and what they're gonna change. When we used to hearing this, all these people ain't even from Ohio flying in around the presidential election time, and they want us to all run to the polls and vote because they gotta swing Ohio to a different, and they know they can't do it without Black folks, right?
Yeah.
So the thing of it is that that kind of dichotomy, if you will, presented a challenge to grassroots organizing, but we did it. And it
Right.
took a long time to, like I said, build that authenticity and build that trust that we needed to build to actually get the work that we needed to get done. And and you want to know how we did that? We centered the experiences of the people who were most impacted, not Black middle class people, not Black people who are already connected to the system, not Black people who are already in some kind of leadership position or had been appointed to some position. We talked to the people, the mom and pops who were
Yep.
being impacted by this school to prison pipeline, the ones who are CNAs and direct care workers, the ones who are working jobs with no union protections, the ones who were working jobs as waitresses. Some of our parents had even lost their jobs because their kids kept being suspended and expelled from school.
Yeah.
So it took really just deep love. Wouldn't nobody get no money to do this?
I know.
This was simply out of the deep love
Right.
for my community and the deep love for the children who were being impacted. We were literally looking at a generation of children, unfortunately, from the data and from our experience, mostly African-American boys who were being shoveled into this literal pipeline from
Right.
3 years old to prison, right? And so what I mean by that is that we literally had to convene in the community where the people are, meaning that we could not charge people for volunteering. It couldn't cost them for volunteering. It couldn't cost them to come to a community meeting and feel like it was a safe space to really share, their experience. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so one of the things that we did was, well, we had to provide childcare, no cost to the families. We had to provide a hot meal, a healthy, nutritious meal, no cost to the families. We had to make sure that, and for some folks who didn't even have transportation, either provide bus tokens or either we would have people in the community. We partnered with one of our board members who was a pastor of a church. That was our meeting space for free, right? This was a love mission.
Yep.
It wasn't about no money. We had to rent vans sometimes to pick people up, go get them, bring them, or go to them inside of the community and make sure we did this. This happened over years and years and years. And the culmination of that, some of the biggest wins was actually a state law being changed that was actually led by our group. And we
That's
were
great.
led by all Black people, mostly Black women, right? Because the Black women are the CEOs of our households in most of the communities, And so we were renting vans, driving up to Columbus. Columbus is the state capital for Ohio. Driving up to Columbus to the state house to go to these meetings and say, hey, we need this state law passed so that our children have a right to get an equitable education. And we
Right.
use, I'll tell you really quickly, the leverage that we were able to use to get this done was that the state senator who was the chair of the education committee in the Ohio Senate happened to be from Dayton. She represented parts of our community. So when
Okay.
we called her office and said, we know you're a Republican, right? But we need to meet with you because you have the power to do what we need to get done. There was a bill that was sitting in committee, had not been even brought up for a hearing, that was from the opposite party, which was the Democrats, State Senator Charlita Tavares, who's a Black woman. She's actually somebody that I would say that is a very positive Democrat. She actually
Okay.
did represent the people that she was elected to from Columbus.
Well,
And
that's good.
it is good because I
Right.
can't say that about everybody.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Charlene Tavares was actually a very good senator. But unfortunately, the Republicans control the House and Senate and the state house in the state of Ohio. So we had to work with in a Republican framework who had control. This is very important because as Black folks, we could have, if we had been a major organization, we would have not worked with the other party to get what needed to be done for poor and working class people. We couldn't do the party politics because literally mouths needed to be fed. When I tell you that parents have lost their jobs, right? We couldn't play politics. We
No.
literally had to sit across from this lady. She could have said, no, I don't want to meet with you. I might be a Ku Klux Klan member. I ain't thinking about Black folks, but that wasn't our experience.
Right.
She literally sat with us. And to be honest with you, she was genuinely shocked. What I learned from that experience, Christina, is that a lot of these elected officials have no idea what's happening to everyday working people.
No.
They just don't, they so far up here that they don't understand. They have no connection to it unless you actually meet with your constituents and talk to them.
Exactly.
And so one of the things that we did was we educated her on our issues. We were blind.
Mm-hmm.
We were blind. She was blind to what was happening to her Black constituencies. And
I believe
one of
it.
I'm serious. And one of the
Yeah.
things that we use as leverage is that by her being the chair of the Education Senate Committee, you know, which is a very powerful position, she decides what gets brought to committee, what gets brought to a hearing, and what obviously, you know, gets voted out according, you know, to the team that's on the committee or whatever, and the party who is in control. And we said, why aren't you allowing this bill to repeal Ohio's zero tolerance law into committee for a hearing? She said, oh, I didn't know nothing about it. This is politics. So her staff, because she's from the majority party, ain't even told her about Charlita's bill because Charlita's a Democrat. It took her constituents to tell her there's a bill that you're not allowing to committee. And so what I can say about State Senator Peggy Lehner, which is who I'm talking about, she just termed out, she's no longer in the Senate. What I can say about her is that she was wrong on a lot of issues that also impact us. But on this particular issue, she was passionate about it and she listened to us and she championed our bill to end zero tolerance in the state of Ohio through Senate Bill 410 in 2017. And in 2018, she championed our bill to end preschool to third grade suspensions and expulsions for Ohio public schools and charter schools. That's huge.
Yes, that's big.
And it took us just literally sitting down, having a conversation. I have photos, I would have sent you one, but I have pictures of us sitting outside at a restaurant and she's surrounded by all these Black women and our little children. And we're just having a conversation and she's taking notes. Now, when we first met with her, I didn't know what to think, right? Because I'm like, okay, she may just sit here, take notes, and we may not ever hear from her again. But she diligently had her staff follow up with us, and we continued the whole sausage and all of that through the process of educating her team. We went and testified and said, this is what's happening. And eventually the bill was passed out of committee and now it's state law. And so that is something, that is the power of people speaking directly for themselves, cutting out the intermediary.
Yes.
That's the power of the organizing that we've been able to do in Ohio and now working on in Maryland as well.
That's great. You know, and I have to say that a lot of times people don't understand that it takes a year to
Oh,
form
longer.
or longer to
Yeah.
reform these trust bonds,
Yep.
because they come into our communities, do their dirty work, and there's people that are actually in the community as gatekeepers working against progress,
You better
right?
talk
Real
about it. Yep.
progress, real change, got fancy names, fancy titles, part of not, notable organizations, but are hindering the work. And so when you come in, and this is my experience, I had to sit and lock arms and take my time, go with parents to wherever they needed me to be. Like, I'm just here for you, right? I want to help you. And then after that, I was able to then say, now, can you help me help somebody else? And we had to do it like that, because it wasn't a lot of support coming from the places where you thought it was supposed to come from, right? And so it was just using our authenticity to recreate and rebond the trust, link arms, help one person at a time, and that takes some time. And so when people say, well, they're not doing it, you don't know what's going on.
That's right.
You don't know what their experiences have been.
That's
You
real.
don't know how they have been used and abused. And if you care, then you'll stop saying what you think, roll your sleeves up and get in the trenches and get and do the work. And it is a labor of love.
Right.
Because it ain't a whole bunch of money trickling in to help save no Black kids. I tell you
Not
that
no
right.
grassroots folks. You got to be polished,
Right.
and you got to be endorsed by somebody and all of this. But getting things directly to the people who are most impacted, directly to families, is the way that we need. It needs to be the way of the future. We need to cut out the intermediaries.
Yes,
That's not
because
working.
it's not. The funding needs to come straight to grassroots, real grassroots, because then everybody will start saying, I'm grassroots. No, you're not. I
That's
haven't seen
already
you.
happening. You got people got $5 million budgets talking about they grassroots. No,
No, they
no,
not.
ma'am,
No,
no,
they're
sir.
not. we're not even, we try to kick them out of here because they messing stuff up for, and so I'm so glad that you shared that, for people to understand that this is a process. Typically when you have someone that is making you an instant right now promise, be cautious. That's a red flag, because we are not here to make those right now promises. We're here to do the work. And work takes time. So talk about what you have going on right now. Maybe people might want to check out.
Absolutely.
Right.
Brightbeam is an amazing organization. We have lots of different, we're building out our activism team, right? We're currently, have plans to expand, but we're currently in 4 cities. That's Washington, D.C., Chicago, the Twin Cities area, so St. Paul, Minneapolis, and also Oakland and some of the surrounding Bay Area as well. So we have activists in all of those cities pushing for equity, for marginalized students, Black and other students of color, and making sure that we're holding people accountable in those cities to the education of children. And so we're excited. Obviously, lots has changed since we're in the middle of a pandemic. Lots have changed. And so one of the things that we're working on now, that our activists have a day of action coming up on August 26th, where we are calling for internet for all, period.
Yes.
We have to have internet for all. There are 15 million children in this country currently who do not have access to broadband. And because of the pandemic, and because so many schools have shifted to virtual and online learning, this is going to be a problem, because as we know, there were already gaps before COVID. This is going to exacerbate the
Right.
current gaps, the opportunity gaps that we're dealing with now. And so that's a big piece that we're working on. Additionally, on Monday, August 31st, folks can check us out on our Citizen Ed Facebook page platform from 5:30 to 7:30. We will be having our third virtual town hall, and it's called Education for Liberation Beyond the Pandemic. And basically what we're going to be talking about is, hey, we want to deal with the here and now, but this is also an opportunity to really envision and to really implement what our children actually need. Because from our perspective, we don't want to go back to the same schools that weren't working for a bunch of our kids, right? This is a time that we can use and leverage a lot of the resources that's coming out from different philanthropic partners, from some corporate folks are stepping up. And we obviously need to put pressure on our federal government and put pressure on our state and local governments to really make sure that we are creating an education system once and for all that really helps young people and children realize their best potential. So that's what we're up to at Bright Beam. Like I said, you can check out a bunch of our different broadcasts on our Citizen Ed platform. Myself, I host a weekly show on Wednesdays at noon on Eastern Time called Building Power, Grassroots Education Advocacy. My colleague and our Deputy Director of Activism, Tanisha, also hosts a show on Mondays at 2 p.m. Central Time. I'm sorry, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And that can also be found on the Citizen Ed platform. And then weekly at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, our CEO, Chris Stewart, also hosts an Education is Power series every single day of the week. And so he's had some high profile guests on. Just last week, he had former Governor of Florida, Jeb Bush, on talking about how we can be supporting parents and families by giving direct support and cash assistance in this process to educate during the pandemic. So we have a lot happening.
I love Freedom Fridays.
And Freedom Fridays.
Y'all need to check Freedom Fridays out. You will learn so much just in one episode. And so for all of you who feel like you're just not fully aware of what this battle is all about, what's going on, maybe even just want to just a refresher or more information, Freedom Fridays, where it's at. That's my favorite show, so I had to shout out my favorite
Absolutely, absolutely. That's Chris and Sharif every single Friday. Obviously, it's amazing. I just love this new role. I love the fact that I get to just be so creative, get to work with so many different people across the country to really do something that I'm passionate about and that I love. So this has been great to be with you and your guests today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate giving people information where they can go so they don't have to say they were never told or they didn't know about this.
That's
or
right.
They didn't know about that. Because you know what? We don't just talk, we do the work too.
That's right.
And so that's what I like about everything that you presented is that it's not just a meeting to meet again. It is an actual solution and we're doing the work. And we're here in the trenches with you guys.
That's right. That's right.
I need everybody to understand, when they look at these things, we're real people in the trenches with you.
That's right.
Fighting for it, our kids, your kids, and we're not inaccessible. Can you share information on how people may be able to reach out to you if they have any particular questions?
Absolutely. People can certainly follow me on all of the social media platforms. I'm on Twitter at Zakiya Chinyere. So that's ZAKIYA CHINYER on Twitter. And I am Zakiya Sankara Jabbar, all one together, all one word, on Instagram. So people can certainly, follow me on social media and reach out to me, if there's any questions or anything like that. I'm usually pretty good about kind of like checking, and I will hopefully be able to follow up with you momentarily.
Thank you. And so if you could give a word of advice just to parents that are feeling a little bit, anxious or concerned. I mean, we're all Trust
We
me.
all,
We
right?
all in this together, okay? And when I say we save us, ain't nobody coming to save us.
Ain't
I
nobody
mean
coming.
that.
Ain't nobody coming.
Um,
So,
and- right. And we gotta
yeah,
start kicking some of them fake saviors. You know, now I'm a faith-based person, so I don't trust man with that anyway.
right,
But we really need to start giving a hard no to
right.
some of these organizations that are
Stop.
getting all the funding and none of it's trickling down to us or helping us. And so that is where we have to draw the line and say, enough of this mess. Get up out of here.
Right.
Because if you've been here 20 years and you haven't solved one problem that is a generational, thing that we can see and feel the impact, yet you're continuing to get money to do this, that
Yep.
has to be questioned.
That's a problem. Definitely
Mhm.
a problem. And it should be a problem. No, I mean, I think I would just say, you know, try to find some self-care healing practices that work for you and make sure that you're doing that. Try to your best to do that a couple of times a week. Some free things that you can do, get out and take a walk. That's something that I've been
Yes.
doing. Just get out, decompress, get off of your phone, put on something that's soothing to you. So like if you say, for instance, some people like listening to a book while they walk. For me, I like listening to either some music, or sometimes I like listening to different authors that I like to listen to, or something that's positive, something that's kind of upbeat. I'll do that just to decompress. And at the same time, I'm getting in my steps, I'm getting in a little bit of cardio, right? So you're still taking care of yourself both mentally and physically. So like it's not like hardcore like exercise, but you're getting out and you're getting some sun, right? You're getting out and you're getting some fresh air. You're getting out into nature. Because a lot of what's been happening these last couple of months is isolation. We've been like,
Right.
oh, stay 6 feet away from people. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. I get it. We don't want to get sick. No one wants to get the virus and get sick and Lord forbid to potentially die, right?
Right.
Thankfully, we are seeing that people are surviving, this
Yes.
coronavirus, and so I'm so grateful. I actually have family members who've had the virus, and thankfully they've worked through it, and everything is okay now. But that's just one thing I can think of is like try to do some self-care. Like for me, some of the things that works for me is also body work. So seeing a licensed massage therapist, like somebody that can help with the muscles, that because sometimes when I'm stressed out, my muscles in my upper neck, like around my shoulders here, can get very tense. And so sometimes just going to get body work done, obviously there's a cost to that. So that's why I tried to balance it out. Like for some people, if they just don't have the extra funds, like to do hot yoga and all this other stuff, because there's usually a cost to everything, you'd be surprised how much a 30-minute walk will do for you. I'm serious.
Right.
And that's free.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes. I'm
that's
the
just some
10,000
advice.
step a day queen. So
Yes, I see. Right. Yeah, that's amazing. I need to get up to 10,000. I think I'm around 6,000. And I
hey.
just get out and walk in my neighborhood. Matter of fact, when I get off from you now, I'm going to take my walk.
Yes. I heard that. And so thank you so much for coming. And I want to say this. We have for people that say they're our allies, okay? I would like the first thing you work on is to understand how to stop the erasure and annihilation of our Black men, starting in their childhood.
Yeah.
We started the show out talking about what was happening with boys in preschool.
Right.
We're talking toddlers.
Right.
We're
Right.
talking barely potty trained.
Yes, that
We're
part.
talking about frontal lobe not developed till 25.
Right.
And it is intentional and purposeful. So if you sit and say you're an ally and you watch that and don't speak out against it, then
Right.
you're not an ally or a friend to me, you're a foe.
At all. Period. Done. Period.
Okay. And so that is my message of delivery out of this. We started and I explained the trauma that my father felt by hearing about my son.
I know, right?
Right. And so if you are truly in this battle with us and you want to see some changes, start with the worst treated person.
That's right.
And that is our Black boys and men.
Yeah.
And do something about that. And if you don't understand, you can start with the little movie 13th. That might help you a little bit.
Yep.
And get more information. Look those people that are talking on their up. Look up what they're talking about. Do a little bit of research. And then instead of saying, oh, that was a horrible thing that happened, figure out what you could do. Can you call your legislature and say, you know what, we need to put something together and do it every day. If that's all you could do is make phone calls every day, do that. Emails every day, do that. But do something. You cannot say that you're in the battle to see equity and change and you're not doing anything but watching and thinking that, oh, this is a horrible story.
Right.
Maybe the next generation change it, because guess what? Your children are watching if you're taking action or not. So how is that next generation going to change anything if they're watching your inactivity and you just shed a tear because of what's going on?
Yep. Okay? You preaching.
Right. And I'm tired of hearing people say, oh, I'm going to pray about it, but are not actively participating and being a part of the change. That ain't how Jesus was. So don't tell me, oh, we're going to pray about that if you're not actively moving in the direction to set the oppressed free.
That's right. That's a basic necessity to me.
Well, I just had to get that soapbox out there, and I know you agree with what's happening and what needs to be done to change it. So we'll just continue to press on and continue to work in the trenches, work with the people that are hurting. And so, thank you again for coming. And everyone, you heard the resources that she gave and how to find her. Definitely check those resources out. And thank you so much again. I hope you have a wonderful walk. You're going to get those 10,000 steps.
We'll have to do this again. And so, looking forward to continuing to build with you and work with you. And we'll continue to work together in this space. So good to see you, and enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.
Yes, you too. Have a wonderful time. So you have been watching me, Christina Laster, managing Day to Day with National Parents Union. Again, I hope that you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. Goodbye to America's beautiful children. We love you, and we will see you again. You can also check out other shows on the National Parents Union Facebook page that air throughout the day. I'm here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, sometimes do a special edition on days between. And so we definitely want you to check that out. Go to National Parents Union website to find out how to sign up. If you're an organization, you can sign up and become a member of National Parents Union, or parents, families, whatever. It's no fee. Just go on, check out that application, fill it out, and we would love to have you join in the fight for high quality public education for our children. So I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.